Commissioner Caldwell.
Here.
Commissioner Morocco.
Here.
Commissioner Lang.
Here.
Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Commissioner Youssef Zai.
Here. All right. We'll salute the flag now. Everybody please rise. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, moving on to item D, approving the order of the agenda.
Yes, and we would like to recommend pulling item L1 and tabling that. Our goal is to bring that back next month. The department is not here, and they will be, I think, more prepared and better able to address that item next meeting.
Okay.
And I would like to pull item L2 and move it up in front of the consent calendar, that we have some guests that are specifically here to address that item. And even though L1 would have taken time, it would be appropriate to give them an opportunity while they're here to just express their comments.
You want to move item L2 before the consent calendar?
Yes. So then we'd be pulling something from the consent calendar, which may take a while.
Okay. You want to make a motion?
I move that we move, well, I'll move that L1 be continued to the next meeting and that item L2 appear before our consent calendar in our order.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moving on to blue folder items, item E1.
Yes, for what was formerly, what was L2 was moved ahead. We did have a supplemental item that was shared with all of you and posted to the agenda.
Okay.
So I move we receive and file on the blue folder item.
You have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to item L2, which is moved before the consent calendar item. Discussion and possible action on recommendation to council to name a park in honor of Joseph Joe Carl Dawidziak. Do we have a presentation? Do we want to?
I can kick it off if you want me to. So last meeting, we voted to agendize this item, and the guests here are the daughter, Claire, and the son-in-law, Ryan, and the whole concept was Mr. Dawidziak has done a great service to the city, the county, the state, and he's got strong ties to the community. What you have in your agenda is a brief summary, but the blue folder item actually goes into much more detail on all the efforts that he has done throughout his military history is phenomenal. He was one of the highest ranked enlisted personnel. He was a city councilman here. I've learned now that he's also was on the Metro board. I served with him on the Charter Review Commission and got to work with him specifically on who is a resident. We actually used your library facilities to use it as a meeting room. So I think it would be nice to propose and recommend to the city council that they rename a park in his honor. One of the things that I've noticed is that one person seems to have 2 parks named after him. And I went back and researched it, and the original thought, it came out of 1973 when they filled in some water sump districts and ended up creating 3 playfields and 5 parks. And this person got two of them. They were supposed to be back-to-back. If you look at them, you'll see that they're not back-to-back. And I was sharing this with Councilman Abaji, that the first time I ever saw somebody play pickleball is in one of those courts. So I think it would be, it's just the recommendation of the council. I've again approached the city council person that's appropriate for it. The family's here if you have any more specific questions as well. But I think it would be nice to recommend to the council to name a park in honor of Joe Duiziak, and we can give the preferences, and the preference could be to rename one of the Omar Eaton parkettes that are one's on Huntington and one's on Harriman. What you also got in there, if you think about our goals and what we accomplish, the reason we have a strong North Branch library is because of the work he did, and Bob Pinsler, who was also on the council with him, wrote an article, and that's one of the materials you've received. And he's just a high man of integrity that I think that deserves to be recognized and remembered by this community. So that's my proposal. It would be my motion as well, but I assume you guys want to discuss it first.
What park did you say was named after an individual multiple times, or you said?
It's the Homer Eaton Parkette. There's one on Huntington and there's one on Harriman. They're right by our aviation, and they were sump pumps. That's what the records reflect. And they got filled, and that's what they did. There's another parkette that also would be nice, but which is named in the honor of a Manhattan Beach mayor. So
Really?
yeah, Robert Beverly Parkette is named after.
Does he live here, though?
No.
It's very strange.
Omar Eaton, and the other thing that makes it really special is Omar Eaton was the brigadier general that served in World War II. He ran the recruiting area down here for the military and the Army. And if you have one person that's in the military, you might as well recognize somebody who's an enlisted person that really made it through the ranks of the process. So that's my proposal.
Does anybody else on the council wish to address item L2 before we go to the public?
Well, I know we do have members of the public here, so I would like to hear them. I'm in support of this with one minor alteration. I don't know that I feel comfortable recommending which park because I don't know the history of all of them as you do. And I wouldn't feel comfortable kind of recommending somebody lose that honor or recognition of having that park named after them because I don't know the totality of it or what means what to the family. But I do feel it's appropriate for us to make that recommendation to the council, who ultimately can weigh those decisions and have staff do those further investigations as far as what would be nice and even work with the family to determine what would be the best option because maybe there's something that means something to them. So I don't know what the best recommendation of which park or which parkette would be appropriate, but I'm highly supportive of this. And I believe and I understand that the funeral and the memorial was just recently, maybe a week and a half ago, that a lot of members of the public attended, especially our local leaders. So I'm very supportive of this.
And if I can correct it, we wouldn't be recommending one. It's the same person with two. There's a physical wall, so, and we'd leave it to the council to decide, on the recommendation, which park they actually do want to do.
But you're specifying then one of the Eaton parkettes?
We're recommending, because that's the most logical of them. I mean, we have somebody with two parkettes.
So that was my initial first thought too. It'd be like, what Commissioner Caldwell was saying. So if we name something, like which one specifically, right? Like I feel like saying, let's just name it, this gentleman after a park, or name a park after this gentleman, excuse me. I think, if we make a council recommendation, it should be more specified to which park. So that's why I was just clarifying. So you're basically saying the Eaton parkettes
one of the two Eaton parkheads, and I've been in touch with the councilman who's up there, and he wants to find out more about Mr. General Eaton. So I've been feeding him information about that.
Okay. Should we move to the members of the public first?
I think that would be appropriate unless Mr. Rowe has something to say.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Kyle Pretsch. I am now a Redondo Beach resident, and I wish to share a short but staunchly supportive commentary in support of the action on a recommendation for this council to name, or for the council to name a park in honor of Joseph Carl Dawidziak. It's interesting, having lived in many of the beach cities and moved around, I've had the opportunity to live in a few, and I can tell you that I came through the beach cities only with reference to the Beach Boys song. And a city isn't built by the people who sing about it, and its persistence isn't captured in airtime. Fame provides for tax revenue, and it provides for city traffic, but a city is literally and figuratively built by the people who show up in a career of service, and it's the legacy of those people who found the next generation, the people who maintain it, and the people whose incredible service should be recognized because it breeds the next group of public servants, breeds the next members of this commission, breeds the next members of the city council, and I would argue few people could charter that message better than Joseph Dawidziak. And I don't believe this is a comment in support of why Joseph Dawidziak deserves recognition or memorialization. Although I love the great comments that have been said tonight, this is a question that I don't actually need to answer, nor is it something that we're invited to evaluate. It's a question of what is the opportunity we miss if we don't inspire the service of this hero to the next generation. While it's not about honoring a man, and it's something slightly larger, the question is, what kind of stories do we want the city to tell? And the particular challenge that serves this committee is the precedent of choosing why this person and not the next person. And so to determine that, I want to pass a few notes. I used the litmus test presented by the Boy Scouts of America, the Eagle Scout requirements. And there's 3 demonstrative requirements that distinguish an Eagle Scout: citizenship in the nation, citizenship in the community, and life-saving. Joe did all of these. He saved a life in Vietnam under fire, going back into battle to drag another man out and save his life. That is an example of life-saving and heroism. He earned the Presidential Unit Citation for his service, one of the highest honors a military unit can receive, and this is the equivalent of the individual Navy Cross and must be personally approved by the President. He served 38 years in the U.S. military and paralleled the Sheriff's Office and the LA Public Defender's Office, which represents citizenship in the community. He served on the City Council, the residents of District 1, the MTA Board. He revitalized the waterfront, the Waste Management Board, and actually helped bring the internet to Redondo Beach. Right here, we mentioned the library that was on the chopping box, and he saved that. And that's a version of life-saving and citizenship within itself. I think it's important that we understand the opportunity cost is silence, where there could be inspiration. And we cannot miss the opportunity because this hero, if not chosen, doesn't represent the same city that the next person may.
I recommend an extension if you want it.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye. Please continue.
Thank you. The question isn't, was Joe worthy of a park? Of course he was. The question is, what happens if we don't tell Joe's story? We miss the opportunity to tell a story of a true hero. And not all cities have a true hero that live and reside in it. Not all cities have many people who serve on the city council who also receive a citation from the President of the United States. Not all of those people have served in the Intelligence Bureau, for the United States Marine Corps. Not all of those people have been part of both the Public Defender's Office and the Sheriff's Department. If we don't tell that story, that specific story, we teach a different story. And so when we think about the future leader who sits in the park, who reads the plaque, who asks the one person and says, who is this named after? When we think about the next story that we tell, when we defend the legacy or the honor of that person at this next meeting, we miss the opportunity to tell a story with these particular values. The window is somewhat short. Who helped build this place? Why is this park named after them? Well, it's because this person helped build this city. They helped build the values that represent Redondo Beach and differentiate it from the other cities. And so again, I go back to the point that this isn't about one man's name being on a gate. We all love Joe and would all support him. But this is the story of a man who gave everything, not a lot. And I hate to judge the other parks, but this is the opportunity to assign a story that represents the city, that built the city, for somebody who gave everything, who put his life on the line multiple times, both for his nation, for his community, and for his state. And so you don't get the opportunity to tell all three of those stories in a single name, and I don't think it's one we can pass up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else in the public that would like to speak? Do we have any e-comment, anybody online?
There are no e-comments or attendees online.
All right. Would we like to continue amongst the council members for item L2?
What?
Do we want to continue speaking about item L2? Do we have any other?
I would make a motion that is stated on the item L2, recommend to the city council to name a park in honor of Joseph Joe Carl Duiziak.
I'll second that.
Call a vote?
You can call a vote. We can discuss it further amongst, because we went to but if you guys have a motion on the floor, you can call it, but it might provide better context if we each discuss what we're thinking and then call the vote.
Okay. I mean, I would like to acknowledge that what you came up here and presented on. I don't have a lot to say because I agree with the renaming of this park. I think that as a person that volunteers in the community quite a bit myself, I know that if I was at a park and I read a plaque about someone who served this community, it would mean a lot more to me than reading a plaque about someone who maybe served their country but didn't really have roots in the community. So thank you for preparing that statement and telling us more about Joe. I support the renaming of one of the parks.
Commentary, yeah. I guess we don't know much about Homer, as Ed said, which if we're not taking anything away from the other person, then I think we're fine with this, park renaming. And do we know much about Homer or
We do, actually.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I keep on emphasizing he has two parks named after him. And it's specifically in the bill that says, well, they're back to back. But if you look at the picture of there, they're not back to back. They're kitty corner. He was a brigadier general. He served distinguishedly in World War II. He ran I think it's a 405th machinized thing. And he was a recruiter here. He lived on the Esplanade, where the Picasso apartment or condos are now, for the last 15 years of his life. He was a vice principal at Hamilton High School for a number of years, and he died in 1979.
Interesting. And we're not, the family's been notified of possible changes?
The family hasn't been notified. The obituary has something from 1979. It didn't sound like anybody based on the obituary was even in the area. And again, he's got two parks. Nobody else has two parks.
They're right here.
Okay. Thanks for the data. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Can I just, I was happy to second it because of the motion that was made. Because the motion that was made was a recommendation to the council to name a park in honor of Joseph Joe Carl Duiziak. I hope I pronounced that correct. Which I'm highly supportive of. But I would leave it to the council to determine the nature of the park, which park to name it after, whether to rename one of those two parkettes, how to go about notifying that family, because that might mean something incredibly important to that family. Maybe it's both, maybe it's the totality. But the way this is read, it does not specify which parkette or whatnot to name it after. And that's why I seconded the motion. I'm very happy with what we have here and the recommendation. And so I would say that there's really no need for us to specify which parkette, in my opinion, which parkette we should be suggesting or recommending to the council. I trust that they will do the homework. I trust that staff can do that as well. And as was just mentioned, I would hope that there's a notification process, because that, again, might mean so much to the family for any of these parks and parkettes. So I think it's a great recommendation, and I hope they consider it, and I hope they follow through on it.
Can I ask a question? In light of your statement right there, what I know about the city council is they have a lot on their plate. They have a lot to read. There's a lot of work to do. The staff also has a lot of work to do. Is it of value to say, oh, I've done some of this research. Mm-hmm. This, in light of my position on the commission, I've done this research and here it is. You don't have to take it, but I just want to let you know that I dove into this and you appointed me, and I'm sure you value the work that I do for my community, and here it is. I mean, I think that, yeah, that's kind of my question. I mean, I don't know if that's directed towards either of our staff liaisons or, because just saying just not adding this information that Ron has, or Commissioner Morocco has invested, kind of spent time looking into, feels like kind of like a waste. And yeah.
So I was involved with the last changing of the name of a park. The Ito Open Space was one of them. I think you were on Parks and Recs at the time. It came from the Historical Commission, went over to Parks and Recs. You guys said, yes, that was great. Then it went to the council and they had their whole discussion on it. And so this is kind of following a similar process, although I do believe our liaison wants it to be drafted as a letter to go to them. We had done it by minutes. And again, I've been in touch with one council person, and I'm going to approach my own as well pretty soon. I think you were involved with the dedication, but I don't think you were an employee at the time that happened. Yeah, so the council is going to do what they want to. That's why it's worded as a recommendation. And the fact that we're telling it as a park is, at least saying this is what we think is the appropriate recognition. So that's why I worded the way that you had suggested, Commissioner Caldwell, so that we at least get the concept out there and they can explore. And I don't know how long it's going to take for them to put it on their agenda, but it's something that at least we'll have out there as a recommendation. And I think they would be happy to have work product coming from us as well.
I have a question, and I'm just curious because, I'm just asking general questions because, as I read, Mr. Dawidziak's, I actually read his obituary. I read some history upon him. He's kind of a man after my own heart. I spent my career working in the public sector. I've volunteered for as many municipalities that I've lived in throughout, my adult life. So I really appreciate the commitment to public service. I stand with the question, why the naming of a park as opposed to like a bench within the park or a tree? And, the city has a commemorative donation program. So I guess my question is why the naming of the park specifically as opposed to like a plaque? He was a decorated veteran, perhaps maybe, recommending a bench in Veterans Park, something to that nature. So I'm just trying to understand the specifics behind the renaming of a park. Also, to Commissioner Caldwell's point, I would tend to agree with Commissioner Lang. I think just given the fact that the City Council has so much on their plate, if we give a recommendation that's specified, because there might be either repetitive naming after a particular person that might actually carry more weight with the consideration of renaming, as opposed to just pick a random park that we want to rename, because then they got to weigh the pros and cons of each person, the impact. Like we don't want to get into that too. Like these are very sensitive things, but I was completely unaware that, 2 parkettes were named after the same person. And if it's leave the naming of one person in both parkettes, I'm almost, that seems like it's kind of, if that's the best shot, if we're going to make the recommendation to council, like say like there's 2 parkettes that are named after the same person. So I think specifying it, but again, my original question kind of goes into like why the naming of a park as opposed to like a bench or a plaque or something else.
Well, my own personal opinion is he is worth remembering and having his name out there, as opposed to, I've taken pictures of basically all the plaques that are in the city and in other cities, because I think we need a plaque program in this city, and that'll be coming up at one of the meetings. But I see a parkette that, again, I started with the proposition that there's 2 parkettes named after the same person. I went back and researched why they're named for that person. I probably know the most about this general in the city at this point in time, researched articles about him, most of his work could be in West Los Angeles, where Hamilton High School is, but I think that Joe was a significant contributor to the community. I like this parkette because it's also close to the library in the North Branch. And I think he's a person that's worth remembering. A plaque is not going to be, I think, significant. A bench, I look at the benches that are around. I go to Heritage Park in Dominguez, Heritage Square in Dominguez Park. The benches disappear. I'm already saw that the area outside is finished, but the path of history marker that was there is completely disappeared. So we got to go find out where that is, and I'm sure I'll be calling you guys to see. But I just thought that a park would be good, given his contribution to the community. I've suggested other parks as well for other members of the public that have left a mark. I think I talked to Commissioner Lang at one point about having a park named after former Mayor Bill Brandt. But there are certain people that come across in the history of the city that are actually worth recognizing for their service to the community.
Did you say you have a list of people that you would consider to have a park named after them?
I don't have a list. I have one that stood out, that started me on this path. That's the Ito Parkette was one to, again, recognize, and I think it serves the question about stories. That Ito Open Space was one where we want to engage the elementary school kids in the story of the Japanese internment. So that's why that was where it was. This one, again, I'm not taking away from anything that General Eaton did, but I think it's nice to have an enlisted person also represented in a park. And he's contributed more than I think General Eaton did to the community.
Anybody have anything else?
I would just add in response that in regard to the council and to staff, that there is a lot of work and weight on their shoulders as far as evaluating that. And if we want to take that responsibility on, then we need to do the work. Yeah. And I would say that the information in our packet is compelling to suggest naming a park. Hearing the speaker, I think, was compelling to name a park, but to strip somebody of the name of a park, sets a precedent. I wouldn't want to even hint at this recommendation and saying, hey, we'd like to name a park after you right now until future generations decide that there's somebody that they find compelling to name a park after them. And so you have this honor now, but it may be stripped. So without having spoken to any of the family members, which I would assume that staff would do and discuss it with them, I would stand by the decision to recommend a park. And maybe the council finds another means, whether it is a park bench, or I actually like the idea of Veterans Park, which is in Division 1, which might be a little bit more, is it 2? It's 2.
No, as I was reading like the blue folder items and, listening to, the gentleman in the public speak, I mean, I know that the city does have a program where you can either donate to or make a recommendation to place, a name on a bench. And I think, such a decorated military background, like it, but again, my thing is just why the naming of the park versus acknowledging,
I agree with that.
I think the plaque is to tell a story to the community. A bench, the only, unless you look up the person's name, they're really quite often used to memorialize someone instead of kind of tell the story of their service to the community. So that's what we would be missing out on if we just recommended a bench.
And I think, again, since the council is going to be the one who ultimately has to make the decision, it coming from us at saying, hey, we should rename a park, they'll decide what they want to do. I mean, ultimately, the decision to rename belongs to them. The level of recognition belongs to them. But we want to get that idea in front of them so they can, do the proper commendation of Mr. Duiziak. So I didn't include the language about naming a specific park. I kept it to what's there to recognize your concerns. And again, it's because the council is going to ultimately decide what they want to do with it. And we know the protocol now because we've done it once before in the last 10 years.
Anybody else? Anything?
I would just call for the question.
Okay. We want to try making a motion, see if we can figure this out, or?
I thought I did, but it's basically, as it says here, recommend to the council to name a park in honor of Joseph Joe Carl Duiziak. Keep it straight, simple. That's it.
Anybody want to second it?
I'll second that.
I think there's already a second, but.
Oh.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah, but I would just, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'm going to abstain from the vote.
And then
Okay.
what do you need from me to go to the next level?
I think we'll discuss that, but we'll make sure it gets communicated to council after I talk with staff.
Okay. If you guys would like, and authorize me to go to that meeting and talk on behalf of the commission at that meeting where it's presented, I'm happy to do that.
Do we need to make a motion that Commissioner Maraca can speak on behalf of the entire commission?
This,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, under public comment, I think
Yeah, you can-
anybody
you can
can
just
and
say that,
identify
yeah.
yourself as the commissioner. I think that would be appropriate,
Yeah.
even if multiple people from the commission would like to do that.
Okay. Then I withdraw the request.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for moving it up on the agenda.
All right, moving on to item
Thank
F,
you.
the consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull any items from the consent calendar?
Yes, I would like to pull item, where's that one? F2.
Okay. And then I would like to pull item F4. Anybody
Make a
else?
motion to approve F1 and F3.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to item G, excluded consent calendar items. We'll start with item F2. Receive and file updates and general information regarding recreation and parks-related items.
So, Ms. Orta, I do appreciate the report, but my question, since you're a community service represented here, I went back to what the Public Amenities Commission is supposed to do, and with regards to the Historical Commission, it seems that we're not getting any updates about what's going on with the museum, what's coming into the collection. Do you know if there is going to be an intent to actually, it just seems like it's completely disappeared for the last several months. So is there going to be some sort of effort to include in either your report or a specific historical commission type report that talks about attendance and things that can be done with the museum and what's going on with it?
Yeah, we can certainly work to include that. Part of the delay has been we obviously had to have a new cultural arts manager, and so it's really just getting him situated in his new role and kind of learning what that looks like. And so I can certainly work with our cultural arts manager to see if there's some data or even just updates, past events, that type of information we can include for the museum, and we can start from there.
Okay, great. Yeah. That's all I had to ask. So I move that we receive and file the the general information regarding Recs and Parks related items.
Second.
Since this is already being discussed, can I ask one more question on this? On the use of RBUSD green space and playgrounds, so it says no definitive update is available at this time. Who's discussing it and how can we kind of continue the conversation?
Sure.
Can I just say something? Is that appropriate to speak at a different agendized item because the agenda item is just to receive and file? Are we able to?
Sure, this is just a simple update. If it gets too in the weeds, I'll certainly advise, but no, a simple update is fine. So there's a subcommittee that includes 2 members on our city council, and then I believe 2 from the school board. I don't quote me on that, but there are, so it's a joint subcommittee that is meeting periodically for ongoing concerns and issues and items such as this. On ways that the city and the school district can collaborate. And so this is one of the discussion items that is ongoing.
What council members are on that?
I believe it's council members Kalujetovich and Waller.
Oh, okay.
Possibly. I believe those are the 2. I can confirm that though and follow up.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve item F2?
Receive and file it, I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to item F4. I pulled it from the consent calendar item, or the consent calendar, because I wasn't here and I didn't listen to the transcript, so I can't vote yes on it. So that's it.
It was a quick meeting.
That was it. We didn't listen to it. So
Motion to approve F4.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain. Okay, moving on to item H, public participation on non-agenda items.
There are no attendees or e-comments.
All right, excellent. Moving on to item I, ex parte communication. Does any commissioner wish to disclose instances of ex parte communication? No? Okay. Moving on to item J, there is no public hearings scheduled for this meeting tonight. Item K, items continued from previous agendas. Do we have any items?
No.
Okay. Item L1 was pulled. Item L2 we'd already discussed. So moving on to item M, items from staff.
I don't really have any other items than what was detailed in the library director's report. We had a very successful kickoff for our summer reading, and staff is doing, I think, an amazing job encouraging participation in the program and working with our partners to make sure the word gets out and preventing the proverbial summer slide. So we're very happy to hear about that. Thank you.
Can I make a comment on that? Sure. So in the materials, there is a program that's coming up at the end of this month.
Oh, right. Thank you.
That is phenomenal. If you look 30 years of this main library, which has been the gem of the city. So I'd encourage everybody that's on this commission as well as in the public to come and attend. It should be really worthwhile.
Thank you. And that's Saturday, July 26th at the main library. It's on our website. We're doing our best to promote it. We're pretty excited about that event as well. So thank you for reminding me.
Do we have anything for Parks and Rec, Kelly, or?
Oh, no, I apologize. No reports. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item N, commission member items and future commission agenda topics.
I have none.
I have a question. So we don't have anybody from planning here today. As I understand it, because I wasn't at that meeting, that it was for them to present what's going on with the preservation stuff in the community. Is it possible to encourage them to give us an outline as well as to what topics they're going to cover? And then there is a report that's filed with the state that it's done annually, and it's usually done around May. When I talked to Mr. Scully, the impression I got that it was being under review. Is it possible to find out if it's been filed? And if it has been filed, can we get a copy of it? It's for the period, I believe, ending September 2024.
Do you know the name of that report, or is it something you can get to me offline?
I can get it to you offline. It's the one that has everybody's resume in there,
Okay.
Which is one of the other reasons I want to see what's going on with it, because mine shouldn't be in there, and I just want to make sure it's not at this point. You were the chair. Do you remember what those reports were called? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'm sure they have it.
We can follow up offline with that request.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
So in these member items, and I just became aware of a group that's forming in the city to sort of encourage tree preservation and tree planting. Is that appropriate to share that information during this member items, if that's something that I think the community might be interested in? Or is it something that needs to be like city sponsored? Or, because I know we did updates on like the garden before, and that's kind of,
I think it's a related event in a way. It's a related activity to Parks and Rec specifically. So if it's just a quick mention, this really is not really a announcements section, but if it's just a quick mention of something that's upcoming that's related, I don't see it as a problem. But
okay.
Just if you guys can all use your own discernment with that, that would be helpful.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just do a quick share then. This group is meeting at 1 p.m. on Sunday in the Redondo room at Beach City's Health District, and they want to just encourage the city to plant more trees, and it'll be a very nice little gathering. So that's it for me.
Are we covering the subcommittees?
That is not on the agenda, and I apologize, but do you have an update for the volunteer subcommittee?
Yeah, just real
Just a
quick,
brief
since I missed the last meeting. I talked to Kelly and Ed on, we're going to ramp it back up with our awards trophies. Kelly's going to order some of those nifty surfboards. And since we changed the name of we lost the Parks and Recs Commission, we had to order a new logo and new name. So we're going to get those out to our approved, I guess you guys voted when I was gone. Thank you for voting on our two award members. So we'll get that ramp back up here this summer.
Can I ask Commissioner Rowe a question on that?
Yes.
So I guess at a recent council meeting, they decided to disband the Public Safety Commission. And one of the things was because Commissioner Escudrias is on that, was to propose an award thing. So I'm not sure what the temperature is at this point with regards to the subcommittee, but you may want to further explore it with the Community Services Department.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
And the only items that I have, I definitely wanted to pick up on, the bylaws subcommittee. I know, we started and then a couple months go by and then, we know how stuff moves in the summertime as well. So
We'll circle back on that.
we're slowly
update.
approaching our 1-year anniversary of this
Understood.
commission. So, it'd be nice to have at least a draft of the bylaws prior to the 1-year anniversary of the commission. So that was it. And then I don't know if we finalized the subcommittees that we want to carry on. I think we did ones that were kind of like urgent from the dissolving of the previous commissions to now, but we probably want to pick up again the conversation about subcommittees and which ones we want to establish and carry.
We'll bring that back.
Okay, and that's it for me.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item O, adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.